Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Amir Shakur Speak Show. And I just wanted to just take a little time talk a little about what's going on, the new show. And I'm new to the YouTube streets, but I'm not new as a journalism, social justice activist. Um, been engaged in social justice work for the better part of 30 years. So I wanted to just take a little bit of time to go ahead and just address what it is and who I am and how we got here and a lot of things that I feel like people should know. Um, Heard a lot of misconceptions about me, about who I am. Heard a lot of misconceptions about what it is, the show versus what I am. So let's start from the beginning. Welcome you guys to Amir Shakur Speak Show with your host. That'll be me. Um, just right from the start, faith note because we got to give it to the Creator, God above. That's who I am. I'm a person of faith, not a non-denominational, but a person of faith. So I want to welcome you again to my show where we discuss politics, faith, current events, all done from an inspirational perspective. Um, a little bit about me and my background. I've been a radio commentator and a journalist for about uh, over 15 years, going on 20 years. My prior name before the name change was Gregory or Greg Greer, Greg L. Greer. So you can look up some of the articles that I've written for Huffington Post and CNN and just the list goes on and on. Quite a while ago, over 7 years ago, we started Block America World News, and it's still a embryonic brand for me. But I just wanted to go ahead and just discuss a little bit about, just my background in journalism and radio commentary. I also worked as on a radio show, Soul Uprising. I'm sorry, Soul Uprising with Bishop Greg L. Greer when I was Bishop Greg L. Greer. So I've been involved in radio and TV commentary for a while. How I got into social justice work. Got into social justice work because I was in the church, and the church has a thing called liberation. So part of my duty, as far as someone who was interested in liberation work, was to go out into the fields nationally and work and try to change people's lives and help them understand how faith works in a real sense. Had some really big civil rights battles. I mean, we overturned, I was the leader with George Frierson in overturning the youngest person executed in the United States of America, which is in modern history, the youngest person executed in U.S. modern history, which was the Stinney case. I was the lead organizer for that with Chaplain George Frierson out of Manning, South Carolina. I also helped and I was organizing the Tamir Rice case down in Cleveland, Ohio, a young 12-year-old who was shot in an unfortunate incident of police brutality, and helped the mom, Samari, and the Rice family really navigate through that. A lot of Chicago police brutality cases. So I've been in social justice work for the better part of 25 years. And in that 25 years, it's been a lot of fighting, a lot of experiences that I definitely wouldn't take back. Um, the journalism piece happened later on down the line because as I uh, wanted to get the message out, I know a lot of times on these big national stories, regular news wouldn't come out and break the stories. So what we did was I decided to start blogging, and in my organization, which was Freedom First International, we just started putting together apparatus to blog on a national level. So my blog started off with 9 people. It was called One World, and then it grew to 300. Then it grew to 3,000. Then it grew to 30,000. So CNN was the first outlet which I actually wrote for. I wrote for CNN Eye Reports, and that led me to Daily Kos, and then that led me to writing for the Huffington Post. Ariana Huffington, God bless her, actually was so impressed with my writing that she made me a journalist at the Huff Post. So a little bit about my background. All of this you can up and verify. You don't have to take my word on it. And been a national activist and working on a global level for, like I said, better part of 30 years. Did a small stint at the United Nations, and we brung in the age of diaspora, the age of African diaspora, where we brung in Harry Belafonte to the United Nations, John Crawford, Samaria Rice, Alicia Garza, which was one of the co-founders of Black Lives Matters, with a lot of other luminaries, and we brung in and we introduced the age of diaspora, and it was one of the biggest events for people of color that the United Nations had. A global citizen, and we have rebranded Freedom First International. So I just wanted to touch base with you a little bit about just my background. And like I said, you can verify these things. You can check me out. Been around. As you can see behind me, you can see a lot of the musical equipment and all of that. I've been a musician, and it's kind of where it led me to doing social justice work because I knew how to navigate through the media because of my musical experience. Kind of a part-time thing or a small minor thing that I do, but I don't do that anymore. So again, just a little bit about my background. That was under Greg L. Greer, but as Amir King Seven or Amir A.H. Shakur, when I changed my faith, a person, a spiritualist, I kind of left a lot of the social justice work alone until I got back here to Chicago last year and decided that I could lend my support to and help out a lot of people. At that point, there was the Thornton Township stuff that was going on with Tiffany Henyard. I decided to kind of stay away from that piece, but I also wanted to just lend my support. So I decided to lend it to another situation out in Harvey, Illinois. So I started talking to the activists on the ground. There was a question about political corruption with the mayor there, Christopher Clark, and I just wanted to see how I could support it. So I decided to talk to one of the activists I had seen on YouTube, a gentleman by the name of Ryan. And I asked Ryan, well, how can I help you guys lend my support and lend my voice to what you're going through to fight the corruption? The corruption was that the mayor was a bit of a totalitarian. He was arresting people who were speaking up in meetings. People were being fined heavily, 40, 50, 60 tickets because if they advanced against his or opposed him politically, they were singled out, and that's still going on today. So I began to speak in the city council meetings in Harvey, Illinois. And also, just a caveat, I grew up in Harvey, Illinois. Um, when I was a child, my mom had a daycare on Wood Street in Harvey, Illinois. Harvey, Illinois is, for those who don't know, is urban city, small town outside of Chicago, about 20 minutes outside of Chicagoland, and they are extremely challenged, even as of today, to date. Um, so let's bring everything round circle. And I just wanted to just take a little bit of time to talk to you about current events on both on a local and a national level. So our organization, one of our organizations is Freedom First International, and it's been one of the most progressive organizations in civil rights. Like I said, we had the Tamir Rice case, we had the Stinney case, George Stinney Jr. case. I started off with Trayvon Martin helping his family out in Florida. Been around the country with civil rights. Um, my family is also politically involved to a greater or lesser degree, have been for the better part of 20, 30 years in Thornton Township. The last supervisor, Frank Zuccarelli, was the chairman of my junior college. My undergrad is criminal justice, my associates is criminal justice, and my bachelor's is criminal justice uh, with from Governor State University. But I also went to South Suburban College in South Holland, Illinois. Frank Zuccarelli was our president. Um, Known him before he passed for probably better part of 30 years. Also, a family member of mine has been a trustee in the township in a small city in the township for, like I said, better part of 20, 30 years. So a lot of these familiar with, I have acting with, I know who they are. Um, you know, just really been part of the South Chicago uh, political experience. I wanted to talk about an issue on a local level. I guess we can start off locally. For those who are not familiar with what's been going on, July 14th, while I was advocating in Harvey, Illinois, talked a little bit about it in prior videos or prior recordings. July 14th, I'm sorry. Um, I had experienced, or I was the victim of a mob action out in Illinois. The gentleman by the name of Jedediah Brown is someone who I had known for many years through the Chicagoland movement. Um, Always something provocative. The first incident that I had with Mr. Brown was there was a situation about a rape, and the young lady came to myself and some of the members of my team and said she was raped on the back of a bus. And so I actually went and I discussed the situation with the young lady, tried to see how we could help her and assist her. She said the Chicago police weren't listening to her, so she needed somebody to help her out. She saw me as being somebody who was highly visible as a bishop in the church. So I began to talk to the young lady and see how we could assist. Um, we went to the Chicago police, the precinct down on 71st Street, and to see if we could file charges. And we did a police report. The young lady was like 17, 16 at the point that I can remember. Um, so we went down to the precinct and we began to try to help her with her situation. She said her family wasn't listening. And I mean, there were so many different obstacles. So I said, well, you know what? Let's see if we can just notate it through the criminal justice system and then take it from there. That ended up going down to the Federal Bureau of Investigation, that situation. And uh, what ended up happening with that particular situation is Mr. Brown and his associates went to the family member and they did a deal with the family member to kind of quiet the young lady down. And, you know, they said that she was lying, so on and so forth. I'm just giving you guys a little bit of background as far as how we got here and the last situation and my background with knowing this particular individual. At that point in time, I was working on within weeks. All of this happened within weeks. I was working on a situation for a young baby who was murdered down in uh, Joliet, Illinois, Samaj Crosby, and we had worked for months to try to get the police to move forward with the investigation. Probably 6 months in, we were successful in getting the coroner to release the police report. What happened with Samaje is that the baby was lost, missing. Within 48 hours, the baby was found inside the household where she lived, under a couch. She was deceased. Um, and to date, it's still an unresolved mystery, an unresolved murder. Um, at the point in time when we were on the ground pushing for Samaje, the father, James, I actually helped him through the legal process. He wasn't involved. He was in jail at that point in time. He was not even a person of interest in the case because of that reason. So I decided to get together with him, see how I can help him on a legal level, see how we can push the thing forward and pressure the people in the community to bring us whatever information forward. The stepmother decided that she needed assistance and she wanted to be a part and have a voice in the thing. The stepmother, not a mother, not a parent, but the stepmother of Samaje. So she found Mr. Brown, who had an organization called the Freedom Fighters at that point, and asked him to come in involved. Um, for me, he was upset that I wouldn't allow him to be a part of that. I wouldn't give him a platform so they could help out the organization, but it wasn't my call. It was the parents' call. And again, I was working directly with the father to try to see how we could assist in helping to get this baby's murder solved. At that point, Brown was part of a situation also from Rosemont, Illinois, Kanika Jenkins, and we looked at that. I personally went down there a few times, but I wanted to stay away from that because it seemed like it was just a cluster of just it's just too much going on with that case, and I wanted to focus on see how I can lend my hand this baby situation. So Mr. Brown came in, and he's been doing that still, as you know, like I said, it's been an unresolved murder. Hopefully you guys can hear me. I'm sorry about the interruptions. Um, there was also one more situation which I wanted to notate that I had the experience of Mr. Brown, which was Jedediah Brown, I should say, which was the situation out in Mount Greenwood. Young man by the name of Joshua Bill was murdered in a disagreement with a firefighter out in Mount Greenwood, Illinois. And Mount Greenwood was one of the historically racist areas of Chicago. And back in maybe the early days of 60s and beyond, or prior to that, as an African American, you couldn't even walk down the streets. And we found out later on that even true to today, Mount Greenwood was a problem. Joshua Bill was murdered when he was doing a funeral procession, and he stood in front of the fire department on 115th and Kedzie, it might be 114th, and he was letting the people go. He was one of the cars that was letting the progression go, and he was kind of guarding. He was a guard car, and as he was in it, he pulled in front of the fire department, and one of the firemen came out and said, "Well, what are you doing? You can't do that." And Joshua gave a little lip back, and there was a disagreement, a quarrel in between the two. Joshua, I don't know if Joshua put his gun or the gentleman put his gun. It ended up in Joshua being shot because of this disagreement by the firemen. Um, this started a level of protest in Chicago for the better part of a week after that. Look that up, the Joshua Bill case out in Mount Greenwood. Well, myself, Father Flager, a lot of folks from Black Lives Matters, Chicago, the Rev Club.com went down there by the busloads, and we were met with KKK men. We were met with Blue Lives Matters folks. I mean, to the tune of hundreds of people came out and against us, against our protests as we were trying to navigate for Joshua Bill. Um, and I mean, that you would think you were back in the 50s with the lynching signs and niggers go home and all of this. And you can look up this, there's still videos about this stuff still out there from that incident. So the week long protests and the anti protesters who came out to meet us, I mean, they didn't want us in Mount Greenwood. They had the racist signs, the Blue Lives Matter signs, and I mean, it really became a big deal. So Mayor Rahm Emanuel wanted to pull, and Andrea Zopp, who was the associate mayor of Chicago, wanted to kind of quiet things down. So they put together a group of advocates and they wrote them out on cue. One of the advocates was Jedediah Brown, and he met with the community and he said, we can. I'm the voice of the community, and we can quiet everybody down and keep quiet. Well, the thing about that part is No one asked Jedediah to represent himself in that case. He wasn't asked to represent the black community, but he was rolled out on you with Ron, with the other folks, and it just became a thing with the advocacy in Chicago felt misrepresented. And we really believe that he was there were a few more incidents, but I just want to get to the situation that happened. So my history with Jedediah is very well versed in like I said, there's always been a level of contention with this young man. There's always been a level of one, two. 1, 2, test.